Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Leadership Circle webinar this evening. We are so excited to have you with us tonight as we move into the later months of the year and celebrate the impact that you are making on Alpha Chi Omega. On tonight's webinar, we have a great lineup of panelists for you to hear from. But before we get into our content for this evening, wanted to extend a very special thank you to our Leadership Circle Silver donors. These are sisters who support the Real Strong Women Fund with gifts of $2,500 or more, and we are so very grateful for their support. We also would like to say a special thank you to our Leadership Circle Gold donors. These are sisters who are giving to Leadership Circle at $5,000 or more, supporting the Real Strong Women Fund. And again, thank you to all of you who are on with us this evening, and an extra special thank you to our Leadership Circle Silver and Gold donors. So as I mentioned, we have a great lineup of panelists for you all. We are going to first hear from Amy Jo Gable, who is our Senior Director of Housing. She's going to give you a virtual tour of our new headquarters space. Then we've got Lindsay Weiss on to talk about chapter housing fundraising. And finally, we have Lauren Filippini, who is from our marketing team, on to give you just kind of a behind the scenes look at what goes into producing our Liar magazine. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Amy Jo to get us started with tonight's webinar. Amy Jo, I think you're still muted, but we can see your screen.
Okay. Thank you, Madeline. Good evening, everybody. I am so thrilled to be here with you this evening to walk you through a photographic tour of our new headquarters space. It was such an honor for me to be a part of this project as we begin the next chapter in Alpha Chi Omega. So for me, when I joined this project team in August of last year, the heavy lifting was already over. There was a lot of spaces that had already been reviewed and the committee had already narrowed down. And so I was just walking the final few of these spaces. And while I could absolutely see potential in every one, there was just something about this one that stood out. So starting with the exterior, it was easy to see how you could make some subtle changes to really transform this space. And this is the after. I love how our new landscaping is going to turn out. I can't wait to see it continue to grow with us in this building. We were able to incorporate 4 of our Liar benches from our previous headquarters building in the front of this space, and then an additional 2 at the back. So we have 2 more Liar benches there. We are also featuring back here prominently the statue of Hera and our chapter bricks. And for those wondering, we have plenty of room to continue to grow our new chapters. Now let's take a peek inside. So you'll notice in all of these slides, there's a before picture in most of them. And of course, we're going to focus on the after, but I also have a floor plan on each of the slides so that you can see where we are in the building. So starting here in the front entryway. The council was very specific in their direction for the design of this new building. Timeless and full of Alpha Chi Omega. So I really enjoyed working with our design partners at PDR Interiors and our construction partners at Brandt Construction there in Indianapolis to transform this building. So you can see a couple of the details that we put in this space that I just wanted to highlight. Is that the tile inlay that we have of the standard badge with 3 pearls, and then we have our coat of arms featured behind our reception desk. So in the previous building, when you walked in, you turned to the left, this is where their boardroom was. For us, we really wanted to make sure that our archive space stood out, and so we transformed this space into Hera Hall. I love how this turned out. I have to give a huge shout out to Sally Cutler and Michelle King, who worked together on this space. There is plenty of cabinetry throughout this room. We have Those freestanding pieces in the middle are on casters, so they can be moved out if we ever wanted to feature them in a different spot. You can also see some of the drawers that are pulled out. They have a glass on the top and other archives inside of them. So you can pull the drawers, you can see some other documents and different pieces. So just thrilled with the way that this room turned out and featured all of our history of Alpha Chi. On the other side of the entryway, wanted to feature a couple of things. This is just a little nook that is in the building. You'll notice also throughout the presentation that there are pieces from our old headquarters that are still in really good shape that we just refinished and reused, reupholstered. And this is what that nook looks like now. So this is where we featured our prints of Hera and Zeus and our bust of Hera. Just around the corner, another little nook that we took the opportunity to prominently paint a really nice shade of green and feature some of our dishware with Alpha Chi Omega branding. This is the other side of the entry, so across from Hera Hall. We really wanted to make sure that this was a bigger focus for us. So we took out that fireplace. We had some doors that we removed and featured in this space. And this is the after. So another great waiting area here in the building. Very awesome feature. I'm so pleased with how this turned out. Our foundation staff did an amazing job of putting this digital signage up so that we can continue to honor donors just like you all for your exceptional gifts and keeping Alpha Chi Omega with all the wonderful things that we want to do. And so easy for us to change that out and feature any of the campaigns that are ongoing. This is the room right off of that entry waiting area. We decided that what we wanted to do with this space that we have titled Seek the Heights Hall is just the history that we're making. So in one side, you have the archives. That's where we've been. This is a room of the things that we're doing right now, other places that we are going. So it has the missions of each of our 4 entities, chapter, small composites that they send in the cabinet in the middle has convention memorabilia. So just a really fun space when you come in to see what we're working on today. This is a small conference room that's right off the entryway that we closed up and changed all of the finishes that we've called the Greencastle conference room. So just a small conference room that can be checked out by our staff or other guests that might come into the building. And the reason that we closed that door up was to make room for a very special display of all of our past national presidents. Straight across from those pictures is an office space. So it's a workstation for our employees when they come into the building. So you'll see Scarlett on the first level and Olive on the second. Now, this was the CEO's office in the previous building. It was very large. And if you remember what we just said, we took the boardroom from the front. We needed another place for that. So we ripped out everything that was in this office space to make room for our 1885 boardroom. These again are chairs that we had in the previous building that we reupholstered. And right off of that boardroom is a small sitting area. We really wanted to make sure that that space was something that could be easily used, transformed, whatever was needed. So still a sitting room for us off of the boardroom, but just a little bit more relaxed in the feel and furniture that is easily movable. This is an example of one of the offices. So there are 4 offices in this building that can be reserved by our staff team. And this is the after. So our marketing team helped us come up with all the names that I am mentioning tonight. So our first floor offices are Wisdom, Devotion, and Achievement. This is the corner office. It had an exterior door that led out to the back deck. So just another shot. This is one of the larger offices, features some artwork from the Centennial. A number of bathrooms in this building, so just wanted to highlight the beautiful tile work and how we changed up those spaces as well. Now we're going to move up to the second floor of this building. So this is right at the top of the stairs. What they used is kind of another mini conference room. We took and changed that into additional workstations. This was a space that they had a lot of storage in it when we toured, and we saw this as the perfect spot for our McDowell Education Center. This room is completely equipped, like all of our other conference room spaces, with technology, everything that we would need to have a virtual meeting in this space. The other thing on the second floor, this restroom and shower, we reimagined into the little Lyre Lounge. So for our parents, nursing mothers, whoever might need a space that is comfortable, we wanted to create that for them as well. Also up on the second floor is a staff lounge that we like to call our Team Alpha Chi Lounge. We have our employee proposition statement also featured on the wall up here. And then finally, this is another view from the second floor, looking down into that entryway. This is my favorite. This view now, of course, with our Real Strong Women tagline, and we are featuring some of the dresses from our past national presidents. This is an area that we will continue to change dresses out ever so often, and just really love how it gives that nod to our heritage and our future. Just a beautiful way to display and honor those wonderful women that have led the organization. Thank you all so much for letting me walk you through. I hope that I can see you in Indianapolis soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy Jo, for showing us around the new headquarters building. I know for any of you that are ever in the Indianapolis area, or if you are local to the Indianapolis area and have not yet had a chance to see our building, that the Team Alpha Chi is more than happy to show you around our new space. So again, thanks, Amy Jo. Next up, we will hear from Lindsay Weiss. Lindsay is one of our housing advancement officers and is going to talk just a little bit more about some of our chapter housing fundraising initiatives.
Thanks, Madeline. See. I will share here. I'm really excited to join you all tonight, just to give you a little bit more information, or maybe some first-time information about housing fundraising and what the foundation is doing. Some of you may be familiar with some of the different things that we've done for housing in the past, and for some of you, this may be new information. Just a little bit of history and as to how we got to where we're at today, before we get started. So back in 2001, we took the first ever chapter housing fund gift through the Foundation for Iota Sigma. And that's really kind of what started getting things going. But it was really in 2011 when we approved chapter housing funds for all chapters. So any chapter can establish a chapter housing fund. And then in 2013, we worked on our first concerted effort or capital campaign for a chapter with Pennington and Company. And that was for PHI at the University of Kansas. In 2017, the NHC built the new chapter houses for Delta Rho and Delta Omega. And so there was a little bit of fundraising that was done for each of those to help support those projects. But really in 2019 is when the foundation decided to really look into what we can do with chapter housing fundraising, and decided to utilize the project at Iota Sigma SMU to determine what maybe that process would look like for the foundation. The campaign ended up being successful. I think we learned a lot from that project and as to what would work and what kind of processes we needed in place in order to do housing fundraising well. And so in 2021, the Board of Trustees approved housing campaign services. And that has kind of been the catalyst for where we are going now in our efforts to really incorporate housing fundraising. So why housing fundraising? Why is that something that the foundation and really the NHC and the fraternity feel is important to focus on? Well, a couple of different reasons. One, the Common Bond Uncommon Impact campaign has chapter fundraising, chapter specific fundraising as one of the priorities. And within that falls chapter housing fundraising. I think as we all know, housing is an integral aspect of the Alpha Chi Omega experience on many campuses. A lot of times it really is the physical representation of our chapter on that campus. And we want that physical representation to represent our brand, to represent the women in that chapter house. And we need that to be a safe and comfortable living space for our members. Additionally, it's so important, as many of you all know, for us to have financially strong and stable chapters and house corporations. And in order for that to happen, oftentimes that means that we're looking to alumni to help support some larger scale projects in order for those LHCs or even the NHC to be able to complete projects that need to be done without putting debt and financial strain on our chapters. The foundation and the NHC really feel this is a way that we can continue to strengthen the enterprise. The stronger we are financially, of course, the better off we are. But two, the better relationship we have, the stronger relationship we have between the NHC and the foundation really allows us to share what both of those organizations are doing with our alumni. Additionally, it's a benefit to our donors. We know that so many women who give to the foundation also have a strong passion for their own chapter and want to be able to support their own chapter through gifts to the foundation. And this is a way that we can enable that desire. So what's different about housing fundraising? There are some things that are very much the same as the other programs and things that we're doing at the foundation, but there are some things that are very different about what it is that we're doing when we're going out and conducting a campaign for a housing project. One is that we're supporting capital improvements and projects. The majority of the gifts that are going to the foundation are going towards programming, scholarships, educational purposes, domestic violence awareness, whereas this is where we're actually doing something physical and it's for a specific project. So that is one big difference. Additionally, there's a unique sense of urgency for the projects to be completed. When we're establishing a leadership fund or a scholarship, we have time to develop those funds. But when we're looking at projects that need to be done on a chapter house, oftentimes those are things that we, have known for several years need to be done. And that project has a specific timeline and that fundraising has to meet that timeline. So it has a different sense of urgency when we're looking at fundraising for those projects. Additionally, it's mainly chapter centric because we're talking about a specific chapter house. So rather than, looking at a wide across the board donors from Alpha Chi Omega. We're looking at donors from specific chapters, and we are trying to engage women from that specific chapter for that project. So that is a little bit different. We also have local volunteer involvement. So chapter specific involvement as volunteers, so that we have people who are engaged on the local level, as well as working with our foundation staff on the national level. Additionally, we have, you can always name a fund with the foundation or a scholarship with the foundation. But when we're looking at chapter housing fundraising, we also have the opportunity for donors to do a naming opportunity within that chapter house that they so love. So how does it work? It does look a little bit different than some of the fundraising that we do at the foundation. First of all, because we are working with another organization or another entity, in other words, either the NHC or an LHC, that money is passing through the foundation and then going out and being granted to another entity. And so you can see here, those funds obviously start with the donor, and then through either working with the fundraising council or working with the foundation campaign services, we are gathering those gifts and pledge forms, working with our donors to make those happen, and then putting them into that chapter housing fund. Those funds then sit in that chapter housing fund specifically for that chapter and for the purpose of housing. And then the House Corporation or the NHC is able to receive a grant back to the House Corporation, back to the NHC from that chapter housing fund once they have completed the project, once they've made that grant request. So one of the things that is interesting and different about foundation or chapter housing fundraising is that house corporations are a 501c7 rather than a 501c3, meaning that while they are a nonprofit entity, they are not a tax deductible one, whereas the foundation is. So how does a 501c3 or the foundation make a grant to an entity that is not a 501c3? Well, the IRS has said that certain aspects of a chapter house can be considered tax deductible if there are areas that are educational. And so there are two ways that we can determine that. One, we know that certain areas are exclusively educational, and those areas can be fully funded with gifts through the foundation back to the House Corporation. Those are areas like study lounges, libraries. That also includes furnishings like desks and chairs. So if you were to redo an entire study room in the chapter house, everything that happens in that chapter or in that study room could be tax deductible, from sofas to drapes to flooring and paint. Everything could be tax deductible. Additionally, if a House Corporation or if the NHC wanted to replace all of the desks and chairs in the chapter house, that would be fully tax deductible and could be fully funded from gifts through the foundation. The other, little bit more complicated way that the IRS says that a foundation can grant money to a House Corporation is by determining an educational space percentage. And that is the percentage of space in a chapter house that is exclusively educational. So how do we figure that out? To simplify it, we take the total square footage of the chapter house, take out the ancillary space, in other words, hallways, bathrooms, mechanical closets, spaces that are supporting the whole house purpose, not meaning educational and non-educational spaces. And then we divide that by the total amount of educational space. So we'll add up the square footage for study rooms, for libraries, for the portion of the living space of in the rooms with the women that is educational, that is their study area versus their sleeping area. And we'll come up with a percentage. That percentage can then be applied to different projects that are being done. And it can also actually be applied to operating expenses, annual operating expenses. So that's something that I think that a lot of local house corporations are not aware of, and is certainly helpful as they are developing their budgets. If they're able to make up or determine their educational percentage, they can use that moving forward every year to have funds granted back to help support their budget. So what services are we offering? We have a couple of different ways in which we can help support chapter housing. One is through chapter housing funds. Any chapter with a house can set up a chapter housing fund through the foundation, and that can go to support. Those funds will be there as long as the chapter wants. And once that educational percentage is established, the chapter can continue to use those funds with that educational percentage. Additionally, we have alumni relations and communications, newsletters, ways that we're communicating with alumni on behalf of the chapter. And the two big things that we've really been able to establish over the last year and a half are the use of feasibility study and capital campaigns. We are now conducting these on behalf of house corporations, and specifically the NHC right now, especially, to be able to conduct large-scale fundraising for large-scale projects. And part of those also becomes direct mail solicitations. And one of the things that we are actually getting ready to begin is some more small-scale project fundraising. We're very excited about this. We're just getting ready to get it going. And this is also really geared more towards our LHCs, or our local house corporations. We want to be able to offer those house corporations that have smaller scale projects. In other words, something $250,000 or less, which typically doesn't make sense financially to do a full scale capital campaign. But those LHCs still need to raise funds in order to do those projects. And so this is a new program that we are in service that we are offering, where it's not a full scale campaign, where we're working with donors on a smaller scale project in order to help raise funds for those LHCs. So here's a little peek into some of the projects that we currently have going. For alumni relations, we are working on alumni relations for Beta Sigma, Iota Sigma, Alpha Kappa, Epsilon Phi, and Gamma Sigma. We are currently in a feasibility study for Omega at Washington State. And we are conducting campaigns for Gamma Sigma at the University of Rhode Island, which that project was recently completed. So we're very excited to be announcing that campaign very soon. And additionally, we are in the early phases of a campaign for Epsilon Phi at Georgia Tech. So we have a lot going on, and we feel that this is just the beginning of what we're going to be able to do to help support our house corporations. We really have a fairly robust staff dedicated to this. We have a housing advancement officer. We have a specific housing donor relations officer whose name is Sue Zarnowski. And she is dedicated solely to meeting with donors who are either prospects for one of the campaigns or feasibility studies that we're conducting, or women who are interested in making a housing gift to their own chapter. We are also always working with our other 3 donor relations officers, our chief development officer, and of course our foundation's operations manager. Some of the benefits of working with the foundation on this It's really a comprehensive program. So it's all Alpha Chi between working with the NHC, um, working with our other donor relations officers. Everything is all in-house. And so we're able to communicate easily and keep track of those donor records easily so that 10 years from now, our foundation staff will know that those women made a gift to their housing project rather than, having that information somewhere else. We have it all in-house at the foundation. It also helps us continue to develop long-term relationships with donors. As I said earlier, housing fundraising has a different sense of urgency and typically a different timeline than a major campaign would with a foundation or a university. But this way we're hopefully able to make those gifts more transformational and more long-term and develop more long-term relationships with the foundation. We're also not doing this as a for-profit business. It's a non-for-profit. And so that does make it more cost-effective for our LHCs and our NHC. And we can also talk to our donors about more than just housing fundraising. We can talk to them about some of the other programs that are going on with the foundation at the same time. And I know that you all will have an opportunity to send in any questions, and I'm happy to answer those in a little bit. But thank you all for joining, and hope we answered some questions for you.
Great. Thanks so much, Lindsay. And that is a great reminder. If you do have questions, you should see a Q&A or a question box on your Zoom panel. So go ahead and type those in. We'll take some time at the end of our presentations this evening to talk through any of your questions. So with that, I would like to introduce Lauren Filippini. Lauren is a member of our marketing team and oversees the Lyre magazine. And I'm really excited. I think her presentation is going to be a treat tonight, but she's going to give you kind of a behind the scenes look at setting up the Lyre magazine. So Lauren, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. All right, I'll get my presentation queued up here. All right. So we are going to talk a little bit about the Lyre magazine, sort of what goes into the process to produce each of our quarterly magazines. And then we'll dive a little bit into the new digital Lyre magazine that you've hopefully heard a little bit about. So to get started, introducing myself, because I haven't had the chance to meet many of you, but I'm Lauren. I am the marketing and communications manager. I've been with Alpha Chi staff for about 5 years, and I'm from the Alpha Chi chapter at Butler University. And part of my role, along with many, many other staff, is working on the Lyre magazine. So many people across the organization come together to work on the magazine. So I just get the honor of putting it together and getting it into your hands and mailboxes. So that involves all sorts of things from content development and sort of conceptualizing what each issue is going to look like, to writing and editing content, working on design, reviewing all the content, and then managing the distribution of getting it into your hands someday. So we will dive into what each issue sort of looks like. So things start way in advance. So about 6 months before your magazine reaches you, we will work together as a staff team to determine a theme. And this theme sort of plays out across all of our communications. So our blog, our emails, but also the Lyre sort of focus around one theme, in addition to us being able to share important business and communication. So we settle on that theme, and then we start working about 4 months before each issue on identifying stories for each section of the magazine. So if you're familiar, if you have seen your Lyre lately, you know that we have some recurring topics that we try to fill with great member stories, stories of real strong women every quarter. So of course, that's our main feature, which is usually the cover woman for our issue. So that's our Real Strong Women feature. And then some member highlights. So we focus on collegians and alumni sharing what they're doing across the country. We also try to include some news you can use. So that's the sort of helpful bits that also come with an Alpha Chi Omega spin. So things to help you in your professional development, your personal development. We try to make it so that you get a little nugget of wisdom or guidance along the way. We've got news and updates from the organization, and then our foundation and National Housing Corporation get a section as well to share their updates with all of you. So this is sort of what it looks like on my end. When I start fresh with that theme at the top, I have a blank document that lists all of those sections out. And hopefully we find a great topic, a great member story, or a piece of news to fit each of those categories. And then we track that all throughout the process, just trying to get as much content packed into our 76-page issue that we can every quarter. So after that, we do a lot over the next couple months, writing and coordinating with our writers. Some of those writers are members themselves who submit story ideas or even full-on pitches of articles. So working with them on editing that content to make it really fit the messaging of the Lyre. We work on editing, copy editing, all of that good stuff, making sure we spell everything right. Working with our designer then to lay out the copy and the photos and the artwork, making it the beautiful piece that you get to hold in your hands. And as some of you might know, hopefully by this point, in 2020, Alpha Chi Omega launched our Refresh brand, and we slid that along into the magazine as well, refreshing it. As you can see in this picture, our before and after, just one issue apart of the way that we rebranded the Lyre magazine. And it is just beautiful, and our peers thought so too. The Fraternity Communications Association voted the improvement of the Lyre as first place in the magazine and tabloid category when we did that refresh. So very exciting for us to have our peers recognize our work. All right, so moving along the process, once we got all of that on the page, written, designed, it's beautiful. Our staff jumps in to review. Katie, our CEO, gets her hands on everything, just making sure we've dotted all the I's and feel good about the overall magazine that we're putting forth. And then 1 month before it arrives to you, we submit our files, those artwork files, onto our printer and with our mailing list that have all of your names and addresses in there to make sure that we get those to your mailbox. And we have a great system that keeps those addresses updated with what you are submitting to us as you keep your information updated. And then 2 to 3 weeks out, we make the final approval of every page, which to me never gets less nerve-wracking. I've done this, gosh, 20 times now. This is like my 20th issue, and it makes me nervous every time I press approve and get that little green check mark you can see on the bottom of the screen. Every page gets one stamp of approval, and then it heads off to the presses where they turn these digital pages into the print issue. It is so exciting to see the presses roll. I've gotten to go to our plants and to see all of that digital work become a printed piece that you get to hold in your hands. And then every quarter, the issue hits mailboxes. And while that happens, we at the Alpha Chi Omega staff are also doing a few things simultaneously. So we are posting on social media, giving a little highlight about what's in that issue, and also sharing that it's coming, letting you know it's on its way. And we'll be sending emails to let you also know if you're not active on social media. And then our latest and greatest development, we are putting the digital version online for everyone to access. So I'm going to shift gears over into this new development that just gives me so much excitement and joy, our digital Lyre. So fall 2022, our most recent issue, was the first issue to ever go digital. So, and this will continue moving forward. So every quarter, not only will we be producing a print magazine that you'll get in your mailbox, we are also putting that issue online to issuu.com for a beautiful digital flip book. And we are so excited for the ways this is going to increase member engagement, sharing those stories of real strong women with more and more people. It's a great recruitment tool. And it just gets those stories of what being a real strong woman is out to more and more people. And it's easier than ever to share with your friends. So the printed version will continue to go quarterly to all those alumni who have reached the Foundation's Life Loyal Roll. That includes all of you. So your print magazine will continue to come to you. And then our collegians are going to receive 3 print issues to their permanent address on file, which is for most of them their home address where they go when they're not at school. And then that winter issue for them will be exclusively digital. So you can find all of the issues as we move forward with this exciting project on issue.com/Alpha Chi Omega. You can also just search Alpha Chi Omega at the top of issue. And these will go up every quarter in tandem with when the print issue is hitting mailboxes. And issue, the site is accessible on computer, phone, and tablet. So however you prefer to read online, there is a format for you. I really love the mobile version because you can like flip the pages with your finger and the page flips nicely along with you. And then all of our past issues, all the way back to 1894, which is when the very first Lyre came out. Those are all found at alphachaiomega.historyit.com. That is our history website that hosts just tons and tons of beautiful archives material and hosts every Lyre that has ever been produced. So you can go way back if you really want to see what the Lyre has looked like over the years. So I'm going to quickly jump out of this presentation and just take you on a little tour through our issue.com site and show you what the digital Lyre looks like. So I'm going to slide this over. All right, so hopefully we are all still seeing this. Yep, okay. So at issue.com, I pulled up our fall issue, which is our most recent one. And you can see this gorgeous flip book. The pages even flip digitally, which is just so fun. And it's the same issue that you're receiving in print, just accessible online. And there are a ton of really cool features with online that you just can't have in a print magazine. So I'll walk you through a couple of those. So one thing is you can click links online. You obviously can't click links on your paper version, but we have hyperlinked everything in this digital issue so that as you flip pages, the links are all highlighted, and then you can go ahead and click straight to the place you want to go. So for example, we've got this giving link to the Alpha Nu Centennial Scholarship. All you do is click the link and it's going to open a new tab right there. So instant gratification to get what you need out of your Lyre magazine, which is really exciting. You can also search. So say you get your magazine and you only want to know what your chapter is up to, that's totally fine. If I am a member of, let's say, the Beta Delta chapter, I just go to this little search or the find icon, this magnifying glass, and I type in Beta Delta. And every instance of that chapter name shows up. I can page through them. I can see that they won an award. So very exciting way to quickly get the information that you care about. And then I'm going to X out of that. Some really great, exciting interactive tools that this offers us as I flip through. There is the ability to link videos. So as hopefully most of you have seen our Common Bond and Uncommon Impact campaign launch video, we were able to link that directly to the magazine. So all you have to do is click in that and it will just start playing in this beautiful pop-up window right here. And then you just exit out and get back to your Lyre. And then a few other features. You can download the publication if you want to save it as a PDF onto your computer. That is totally up to you and you're welcome to do that. It's also really easy to share. So you don't have to like cut out your articles and mail them to sisters or scan them on your computer. You can just share directly from this digital issue. So when you click the share button, it pops up this nice window that has ability to share directly on your social media accounts or through email. And you can just share even a single page or share the whole issue from the very start. So really great way to share the news of Alpha Chi Omega with those friends and sisters that you want to tell about all the great things that are happening. And then what is the okay, the last thing is the ability to do these great article stories. So each of the articles, you know, these great full page stories are pulled out into these bite-sized little nuggets. So say it's a little overwhelming for you to read 78 pages of content. I totally get it. but you really want to read the story of a perspective of a collegiate member, you can click this article. It pops right up and opens in a new tab. This standalone piece that pulls that same article straight out of the beautiful flip book and turns it into an easy to digest story that gives you just the piece that you wanted to read. So super exciting way to engage with the Lyre in a new way. We've got a mobile app on Issuu as well, if that's your sort of thing. So a great way to interact with the Lyre as well. And then, like I said, all of our old magazines are on our history website for you to explore as you want. So jumping back into the end of this little presentation. Some final thoughts. How can you join the fun? We are always looking for member stories and submissions. We want to hear what you want to hear about. We want to hear if you meet a sister who's got a great story, or maybe you have a great story yourself. We at Alpha Chi headquarters absolutely want to know that. We want to feature the stories of real strong women doing what they love, doing what they're passionate about. So we've created a really simple form on our website on the Share Your Story page, which is on the news and resources section of our website. So you can just fill out that form. It asks for your name and a brief summary of your story. And then that heads over to our marketing team to determine if that is a great Lyre story or a blog story or a social post. So many great ways to share the stories of our sisterhood. And then we always want to get your photos and videos, specifically your unedited photos and videos. So those can be submitted to our photo management system at photos.alphachiomega.org. There's a great drag and drop box. You just slide your photo in there, no need to log in, and it shoots its way over to our marketing team. And if you have any questions about the Lyre at any point, you can email me directly at editor@alphachiomega.org. And we're super excited to hear from you. We always want to hear about what our sisters are up to. So I look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Thanks, Lauren, so much for sharing all of that great information. So we will now move into our question and answer portion of the webinar. So just a reminder, if you have questions, go ahead and type those in now. I'm going to turn it over to Marcia, and you'll hear from some of our panelists with some questions this evening.
Great. Go ahead and be dropping those questions in. I will start with one that I think probably Lauren may chime in, but I think it's one that I can answer and probably should. It's a question that says, when we send the Lyre magazine to new initiates, why don't we send the magazine to alumni initiates at least a couple of issues? So I'll answer that in a couple of ways. One is that collegiate members do receive the Lyre throughout their collegiate lifetimes, their 4 years or so in school, because they are paying a pretty significant annual dues payment to the national organization that helps cover those costs. Alumni members now receive the Lyre as a result of, it's a donor communication tool through the foundation. And so if donors have reached the Life Loyal role level, they receive the Lyre as part of that donor communication strategy. People who joined Life Loyal back in the day, between 2008 and 2019 will continue to receive that as part of their Life Loyal membership transferred over. But since those alumni initiates aren't paying ongoing dues beyond their initiation fees, that's why they're not receiving that as part of their membership. Now, certainly the fraternity could make some kind of a decision to change that, but that piece of it would be a fraternity call. And at this point, that is not something they have opted to do. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the next question. These are going to be a couple of questions for Amy Jo. So Amy Jo, if you want to pop on, if you can pop on, I will throw these your way. And then actually we'll come back to Lauren with another question. Amy Jo, just a real big question is maybe just if you could talk through kind of what were the priorities that the building team and your team looked at as you were designing, as they were looking for new building spaces and designing the space itself. What were the big priorities?
That's a really great question. So like I mentioned, I came in at the tail end. So the five that I think they looked at over 80, Marcia, if I remember right, different spaces. They narrowed it down to 5. And some of the things that were very important to the council and to the building committee. So in that committee, there were staff and council members that sat on that. They were really looking to find a space that we could have our archives. So that was very important to folks, a place that we could hold that history. So a good spot for that. Also a space that was collaborative. So in areas that would be easy to manipulate for our staff team, whether we were working in small groups, place to have some larger groups of folks that were coming into the building, and then just those office spaces. So while we did not have to have as large of a building, and that was very intentional, we still wanted to make sure that when our boards or our staff, when they came into the building, they had a great place to meet and to work together.
Thanks, Amy Jo. I can assure y'all it is a great place to work. Some of the technology upgrades have really made it a fun place to do the kind of work we have to do today with all the Zoom calls. I'm going to pop over to Lauren. Lauren, would if you could maybe pop back on and just you talked a little bit about the themes, but maybe talk about kind of what's your creative process as you're thinking of themes for the Lyre each quarter.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is, first of all, a big team effort. So our marketing team are just full of creative people. And we brainstorm as a group because we get these communication themes to flow throughout everything we do. It's not just the magazine, but we really start our search for those themes within our brand messaging. So when we rebranded our visual brand that you all see, we also worked up a messaging guide that sort of pinpoints the way we want to talk and write about Alpha Chi, those messages that really resonate with our sisters. So we look to that guide for some of the things that we want to focus our themes on, because we already know they resonate with sisters. And we look at the time of the year sometimes. So for example, our upcoming theme, well, it just started. So November is the start of our Q2, which is a new theme for us. And the theme is new chapters, which fits really nicely with wrapping up our headquarters dedication, focused on new chapters. We also have our new chapter at University of Mississippi to talk about, and also the new chapters that our sisters are reaching all across their individual lives. Looking ahead, we've got a creativity theme coming around MacDowell Month when we celebrate the arts. So just looking at time of year, but also really just those core messages that really resonate with sisters that are really broadly applicable to really anything that our sisters are passionate about.
Thank you, Lauren. Looks like we are getting close to the end of time, to the end of our time together tonight. Lindsay, could you maybe pop back on and help me answer this question? And that is really a kind of what's the most challenging part about incorporating housing fundraising within the foundation? What would you say from your and Sue's perspective?
That is a really good question. I think that it, like I said, it does have a different feel than some of the other fundraising that we do with the foundation. So much of what we're doing with the foundation is, we're talking about things like planned giving, things with donors that are 20 years out, 30 years out, that aren't necessarily the same urgent specific need that we're doing with housing fundraising. So I don't know that it's necessarily a challenge, but it is a difference for our donors and it is a difference for our staff. And so I think just incorporating that within the other things that a donor may have going on with the foundation, if they've established an endowed fund, or if they have a program that they love to support, trying to work with the donors on what something for their chapter house could look like in addition to that. And we're typically talking about 5-year pledges for those chapter housing funds. So really kind of reframing, this is something that is a right now that we're asking our donors to make a priority for their chapter housing fund for this year and maybe for the next 5 years. but also thinking about what could the next steps be for them, for that donor and the foundation beyond that chapter housing fund gift.
That's a great answer, Lindsay. Thank you. We have 5 minutes left, and so I'm going to take a real quick opportunity. As Lauren mentioned, or as Amy Jo mentioned, and Lauren kind of mentioned it too, donor recognition is something that's very important to all of us. So while we are on here, I am going to, if I can get it to pull up, briefly share with you something that you probably saw in the mail today. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Today in your email, you should have, and you will be getting a hard copy of it shortly as well. You should have received the Foundation's impact report for the 2021-22 fiscal year that ended in July 31st, 2022. Some great news in that report, but also buried in there is the rollout, the virtual rollout of our new donor recognition wall in the headquarters building. As Amy just showed you, it is a beautiful framed digital touchscreen piece. If you were at headquarters dedication, you got a chance to reach up and you can actually walk up and touch this screen to get to the different things. But for, I think the most wonderful piece about it is it's available for everybody to see and to celebrate our donors from all of our campaigns, as well as on an annual and cumulative basis, and to share some messages that we might not otherwise be able to share with people who aren't able to get physically to our headquarters building. If you go visit this, and I am going to drop the, well, I don't think I can, Madeline will drop the link in our follow-up email in case you didn't receive the impact report email. But just a beautiful thing is that you can go through and you can look for the different campaigns that we've had in the past and see and celebrate the donors who made meaningful gifts to those campaigns and each year. The other thing that I love is it's a little bit of a trip down memory lane if you've been around Alpha Chi for a while, because you can go back and see some of our past board chairs, all the way back to Harriet Holden, who was our first board chair, and on through all of our other sisters who have served in those roles. But another special thing that I want you to be sure to look for is in the Pathway Garden section. There is a fun map of the Pathway Garden, the way it existed at the old headquarters building. You have the ability to click on these things, see who the donors were, who made gifts to dedicate some of the items that were located in the garden. You can also scan this QR code at the bottom and go to a full directory of the bricks from the garden sorted into chapter folders. So if you know someone who would like to go looking for a brick, they are able to download a copy of that picture and take advantage of that. And one more special thing to be sure that you go to look at is under the impact section. Under the pathway, well, there's two really cool things. One is there is a video message from our current board chair, Corey Whitener Fellows, that you can click on more info to hear that video message and read her message. But you can also go to the Pathway Garden, click on more info, and under videos, you can choose to watch a beautiful video that Madeline helped put together. And I just saw a typo, but I can fix that right after this, about our Pathway Garden and the history behind the Pathway to the Future campaign and the Pathway Garden. I'm going to stop sharing. And if there's one last question, we probably have time for one more. And if there are not, I'm going to thank you all one more time for joining us tonight. You all are one of our most important audiences to know what's going on in Alpha Chi Omega and to feel the impact that your gifts are making on our sisterhood and the impact that we're making on the lives of all of our sisters around the country, both alumni and collegiate members. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing you again at our next quarter's Leadership Circle webinar. Madeline?
We are all good. So as Marcia said, our next webinar will be in February. We will drop that date in the email that you get tomorrow with the recording. But as always, if you need anything from our foundation team, reach us at foundation@alphachaiomega.org, and I'll echo Marcia's thanks. So thanks for spending your evening with us and for being such a committed donor to the foundation. Have a good rest of your night, everyone. We'll see you soon.